anything could be better than the rations that they gave us back at boot camp. So
That's true. And Jerry, I'll have one of the same. And also, can you throw in just a little bit of brain bug? Because I would like just one portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want some of that dehydrated ice cream too. You know, the good stuff. The
dehydrated ice cream. Yes.
Yeah.
And just a water for me actually today.
Nice. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I don't like to drink on the when I'm about to go on a mission.
I on the other hand would like to drink all these memories away. So something stiff, Jerry. Thank you.
Drink away the fascism.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Oh, welcome to the show, everybody.
Hey, oh my gosh, got our order in.
We had to make our little order, and Jerry's getting that for us right now. He's going to take that to Alphonse, and hopefully we'll get that in soon. But welcome everyone to this episode of Cinema Lounge. Wow,
Cinema Lounge.
I don't know if we're calling this episode 2 or if we're going to keep the previous numbering system, because I called the previous one Cinema Lounge number 1. But I don't know if do you think that's a good idea, or should we make this episode 30? This is episode 2?
Episode 30.
Episode 30. Okay.
Yeah, as a continuing storyline.
Yeah, I like that. I'll go back and retroactively change that one, because I don't
Season
like
2.
the idea of it being number 1. Yeah.
Season 2. We could call it Season 2, Episode 2.
I guess. I think I might have done that, because you can do that in Anchor. Because you can do seasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it actually divides it on Spotify.
Who cares? No one's listening to the episode. It's just whatever.
No one's listening to the episode.
No one cares about the episode number.
No one listens to the episode.
No one's listening to the episode.
We're just putting this out into the ether, and eventually it leaves our planet, hits another planet, and that planet will blame us arbitrarily for accidentally destroying Buenos Aires. And then they will invade our planet and try to genocide us.
Wow, Marshall, that was a good segue into talking about the movie this week, which is Starship Troopers.
Star Trek
Super Smash Brothers.
Super Troopers.
Super
starring
Troopers.
George Lopez.
Dun, 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 dun.
He's in that. Is he in that movie?
Super Troopers?
Yeah.
No. What? George Lopez
I think I'm thinking of a different George Lopez, Mountie or something.
Good.
I swear that's a movie that exists.
I don't think so.
I haven't seen either of them.
Up. So anyway, Super Troopers was the movie of the week here in the Cinema Lounge.
Yes, Starship Troopers.
So what did I say?
Super Troopers. Everybody, it is 11:29
p.m.
on Monday night. This episode is going up in approximately 5.5 hours. 6.5 hours?
Fudge.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that to yourself?
Because I have a dedication to this art.
You do.
Okay?
You do.
I'm going to put it out there for the people to hear. And because when you miss a week, your numbers drop intensely, and that's just the way it works. But, so it's late. We're here in the lounge on a late night. It's open really late, and we're going to probably end up locking up for them.
And it's an open bar, too. So, once it hits 11:30.
Yep. Then everything's free.
It's free. Yep, it's crazy. We pay the membership cost, so it's fine.
That's true. We have to pay our members' dues.
Yeah.
But this week we watched Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers.
Marshall, where do we start with this movie? Why did we choose this movie?
So originally we chose this because we were going to watch it with Mitch Bruner, who I've not met, who is a good friend of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is, according to you, one of, if not his favorite movie.
Yeah. It's his favorite movie. Yeah.
So I was okay, I've never seen it.
Yep.
Let's watch it.
Yeah,
we were not able to get together with Mitch, so we ended up watching it separately. We were going to record this Saturday night, and then that didn't happen. And then we were going to do this morning, but then you were not able to get off work. So now we're doing it now because you got off work tomorrow.
Correct.
Which it will be in a half hour.
This is great. Tomorrow it will be tomorrow in a half hour.
Yes, because it is now 11:31.
Yeah, this is good.
But
so this movie, where do we start with this movie? How do we set up this movie? I don't really want to tell the whole plot. I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah, no. I don't ever intend us to. When I say to you, what's this movie about? I don't want you to give me the plot. I want you to give me, like, generally up to the inciting incident, and then we talk. So what I would say here, I'll give you an example.
Okay, please.
So Starship Troopers came out in 1997, directed by Paul Verhoeven, who I would say with this and RoboCop is the king of action satire. He also directed Basic Instinct, which is a very different movie from this and anything else he's really done. Showgirls and Total Recall, most notably those movies. This movie is based on the book by Robert A. Heinlein, which I believe it doesn't bear much similarity to the book, but the overall themes are more or less the same. So basically, Starship Troopers is... I mean, how do you describe it? It starts out, and it's these teenagers who are in this world that is very utopian, sort of. Like everything, like disease is all solved. There doesn't seem to be like race issues or anything. Like everything seems to be perfect on the surface.
Computer technology everywhere.
Yeah, and it's the future.
Holograms. Yeah.
It's like futuristic. And like I imagine you could place this in the same universe as Total Recall, actually, and it would fit in really well. Except, this is on the Earth world, and that's on the gritty, disgusting Mars. But these kids live in a society that is kind of centered around the military and like the military-industrial complex. Like that's the whole thing.
Right.
Like they open up and they're in class and it's talking about how like you aren't a citizen until you've performed military service. Until then, you're just a civilian. That is the difference. If you're a civilian, you haven't performed any military federal service. If you're a civilian, a citizen, you have. Serving guarantees citizenship is their whole like advertising campaign.
A civilian is a free rider. A citizen serves.
That's a good person right there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, serve your country, and then you're a real man.
And the opening scene is actually a propaganda video trying to recruit you into the national service.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, looking at it, it wouldn't, because you're seeing everyone get horrifically murdered live on TV, but that all comes back later. But basically, these kids are super born into this romanticized militaristic world, and they end up all joining up in different branches, and kind of, it just goes from there. On the surface, from the outside, I'll say this movie didn't do very well when it came out. And it kind of has the reputation of... Somehow it has the reputation, I think it's just because people didn't see it. All they know is the trailer. It has the reputation of being like this action B movie where, it's just dudes killing bugs and banging chicks, and it's just this stupid action movie. And that is exactly what I thought it was. I thought it was this bad action movie because that's somehow what it has gotten known as. And I think that's because no one saw it, and because it did so poorly. It was so poorly reviewed when it came out. And wow, is that wrong? Like, I don't know what you thought, but I loved this movie. Like, I think this is really good. And I don't understand how audiences in 1997 couldn't see the satire and didn't understand what Paul Verhoeven was doing here, because it's so obviously an anti-fascist movie. Like, they're dressed like Nazis. Like, it's like Neil Patrick Harris walks in at the end dressed as an SS officer. Like, it's not subtle, but it's so smart. I love it. I have a lot to say. What do you think?
Yeah. So, had I been a viewer in the theaters, I would have viewed this as, it's it's really bad sometimes. Like dialogue and like line delivery is very bad. Yes, I would have watched it as like so yeah. I would have watched it as in theaters. I would have seen it as like a Sharknado. I would have showed up. It would have been like what you were saying, like the B action, weird cult following kind of movie.
Yeah.
That's like pretty ridiculous, pretty gory, and like the plot. There's definitely more plot and character development in this movie than like a Sharknado. But if I had been a viewer in the 90s, that's what I would have said, because I knew the interviews after the fact where they came out and said, obviously this is satire of fascism or creating some sort of political statement against where consumerism is leading the United States or Western countries, the resurgence of fascism in the world. Because I've read those, I went into it and was viewing it from a different lens and thought like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I'm more engaged with the dialogue. I'm more engaged with the things that they're saying about their society, or I'm paying more attention to like the world building almost more, because I knew
there's a lot
that
happens in the background.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that, the little side comments about punishments in their society or what their society upholds, or like, all those little things.
The fact that you can't vote if you're not a citizen.
Right. Or his dad saying, I would rather go out and receive the lashes than have you join the military service, or like all that kind of stuff. Like anyway, because of that, I viewed it differently. It's the dialogue is not good.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I know. But even at that point, how much of that is intentional? I guess it's not like
if you watch Paul Verhoeven's other movies,
right, like
they're
RoboCop
not written like this. Like RoboCop is definitely an over-the-top 80s action movie, but it is also very much that political satire. RoboCop specifically is the one that I would compare to this. But the dialogue is a lot smarter in his other movies. In Total Recall is obviously over-the-top insanity. Everything that Verhoeven does, I think he's doing very intentionally. And I think the casting, initially, you look at it, and it's just kind of cheesy and stupid. But then you realize what they're doing, what he's trying to do. And it's kind of genius, because they've gotten these actors that are like known for being kind of stupid airheads, that aren't very good actors, that aren't very that are like in real life not super smart people necessarily. Like what's her name? Denise Richards, famous hot babe, and like that's her whole thing in like any movie ever. But in this, that's like intentional. Every other movie they're casting her because she's a hot babe, so she'll get audiences in. In this, it's much more part of the satire, which is weird and smart. Because what did I write here? Performances, under performances, because I got script, score, cinematography, performances, VFX. Campy, but intentionally. These are kids. These are supposed to be kids with learned romanticism for the military. So this like kind of airheaded nature of them, that they've just been fed all of this information their entire lives and nothing else, kind of fits the way that they talk and the way that they act and the way that they think about everything that's going on around them. And it's so over the top and childish, and I think that fits, and I think that makes sense, because even then when they're in the military, they're a lot of the times acting kind of like children, and I think the fact that they're obviously adults only adds to that. Like there's a lot of generational stuff happening throughout this movie, because you get these kids who have been taught, the military is the only way, and you have to become in the military, and that's how progress happens. And Like, there's a whole part at the beginning about how violence is the only way to solve any problem. And you get this like small moment of humanity from Johnny Rico, the main character, where the teacher, played by Michael Ironside, who's incredible in this, asks him, what's the difference between a civilian and a citizen? And he gives him that answer about, military service and violence and everything. And he says, okay, well, you hear that and you know that, but do you believe it? And Rico, for a moment, is like, I don't really know if I do. And for a second there, you're like, interesting. And if this was any other movie, he would probably go down the route of violence and then eventually realize, oh, wait, this isn't the thing. But that's not what this movie does. Like, it continues, like, no one learns their lesson in this because they're trying, it's like Verhoeven has made fascism attractive, and it's strange. Like, he's
like you wouldn't, watching the movie, like at the end, right? It goes all the way to the end of the movie, and they like ride off into the sunset to some degree, into like this dystopian sunset of like, like everything's fine, like everything's good, and yet you watch this whole movie and you go, what about any of this was fine or good? Like it makes the fascism attractive, quote unquote, because it's like a fun shoot 'em up, blow 'em up, kill aliens movie, and maybe that's like the piece that's like scary, is that that side of the fascism was like fun for me to watch. Like if I was a kid, if I was a 13-year-old watching this movie, it's got everything. It's got aliens blowing up. It's got the good guys winning. It's got boobs. It's got
it does.
Like it's got so like all the, like in my 13-year-old brain, it's like, this is the perfect world. I want to be a guy out in space fighting aliens, and and that's maybe what the fascism is playing to, is like maybe that's what the statement he's trying to make. Is this playing to our 13-year-old selves, or I don't know.
I think so. Well, and I think that's kind of interesting because there are a couple moments throughout the movie where Rico almost like pulls back and says, you know what, I'm done. And then the machine just draws him back in. Like something happens that suddenly, I'm back in, I'm hopping into the military service. This is the only way to solve our problems and everything. And there's just so many things to say about this movie, because I think it is really, really smart in the way that it's over the top, in the way, like, the performances I think are really good. The score, I was impressed by the music.
Also,
I didn't expect it to be as epic as it was.
Also, like, it's also like satirically epic. Like,
oh yeah,
war movie, space movie, epic.
Yeah, well, when they're first going down onto the planet at nighttime, Klandathu, when they're first doing their first invasion there, as they're going, it's this huge epic fanfare and everything, and then they get down on the planet and it's just like gone, and the music is stopped, and it's just them on this dark planet, and the aliens start attacking them. The arachnids, the bugs, start attacking, and what's his name, who's become squad leader at that point, Gary Busey, which is, it's so wild. I'm so used to seeing Gary Busey as like an older crazy man. It's weird seeing him as probably like a 25 to 30 year old crazy man.
Yeah.
It's insane. They like are confronted by the bugs, and up to this point, like, they've gone through basic, they have done all their training and everything, and they are like there to kill, and they are finally confronted with it. You've kind of grown attached to all these characters too, and they've kind of, throughout this basic training montage, all of this stuff that's happening, they've drawn you in to the conflict. They've made you care about these characters to some degree. Like, you've gotten to know them a little bit, and it's not presented itself up to this point like the movie that's going to start just tearing all of its main characters to literal pieces. And then the moment that they actually get there, the fanfare cuts out. It's just war. Mm-hmm. And they're seeing all of their friends getting torn to pieces. And Gary Busey, like one of the kids in the squad, turns to Gary Busey. He's like, "What do we do?" And he's just like shell shock. He's like, "I don't know. Like, I have no idea what to do about this." Mm-hmm. And it's just really good. It's really strong.
Yeah. So I want to dive into something that I think is important to this movie, and we've been talking about it, but I think we should define it a bit.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like a big plot to this movie is they join the force, they train, and then it turns into an alien war. They're fighting these arachnid things with big pinchers and claws, and they tear people up. And so I think that's interesting. One, I think like parodying and spoofing like all like the military training felt very like a parody spoof of like Full Metal Jacket, but like in this weird future where the Nazis are running the boot camps, like instead of U.S. military. I mean, it all is U.S. military, but like they're out there breaking cadets' arms and like training them by like throwing knives and like having it stab someone's hand, and all this like crazy spoofy stuff, right? Where it's like building this dystopian future. But I digress. I think something that we keep saying is that it is a commentary on like the rise of fascism, or in a world where, let's say, we go back and even in our a world where the United States becomes a fascist, or maybe the world, the Earth is ruled by fascism. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's not U.S. Anyway, fascism takes control. And so I found a definition of fascism, which I think kind of helped me piece through some of the symbolism in this movie. But the definition is from Robert Paxton, who is kind of he like specializes in fascism studies. He's a professor at Columbia University. Ooh. But anyway, so this is his definition. Fascism is a form of political practice distinctive to the 20th century that arouses popular enthusiasm by sophisticated propaganda techniques for an anti-liberal, anti-socialist, violently exclusionary, expansionist national agenda. Whew, sorry, that's a lot. Let me break it down. So I think I saw in this movie, he outlines in his definition that it arouses popular enthusiasm by sophisticated propaganda techniques.
Yeah.
So throughout this movie, you're seeing the propaganda techniques, or it's kind of cutting back to like this weird computer thing where you can. It's like I never really got it, but it was like exploring like the news, state. It was like state news on a computer, where it was like showing you different pieces of propaganda, or like the recruitment video, which kicks it all off. So like this recruitment video is like producing excitement within the society to join the service or whatever, right? Or that the state has it all under control. What else going on in his definition? So that arouses popular enthusiasm by sophisticated propaganda techniques. And that it's violently exclusionary and promotes an expansionist national agenda. So the entire time, the state here, I can't remember what they called themselves. Did they just call them the Federation?
The Federation, I think. Yeah. Galactic Federation or something.
The state in the movie is always pointing the finger at these arachnids, and like riling up as much energy and hatred towards these aliens as possible so that they can stay in control. It stirs up people joining the service and all this stuff because damn these bugs, they're killing humans. We need to go over there. And there's one point where they're like, some people might say we should have a treaty for life. No one kills anyone, but we all know we need to crush these bugs, kill them, because they're a threat to humanity. And then an asteroid hits.
Yeah, so there's like there's this thing that for some reason, like they believe, the people on Earth believe that there are these asteroids that hit Earth in this world, this universe that they've created here, the Verhoeven has created. And these asteroids hit the Earth, and they supposedly come from Klendathu, which is the bug planet. So the conceit is that despite the fact that the military and the government is very certain and explicit about the fact that, the bugs are just bugs, and they're not smart. They're not intelligent, all of this stuff. They are apparently also, while not being smart or intelligent, sending asteroids to attack the Earth. And that is how they have gotten everyone to get riled up to go and, we're going to take them down. We're going to their planet this time, and we're going to kill these things. Because they go to different, satellite moons and stuff where they've tried to set up outposts. But then the big inciting incident in this one is, Rico is just, I'm going to leave training. This, one of their trainees accidentally gets killed in a training exercise, and he was in charge. So he's like, crap, I can't do this. I'm going to leave. And then Buenos Aires, his home, gets destroyed completely by one of these asteroids. So then, boom, we're going to war. Let's go do this.
Mm-hmm, right. And so they use war as a unifying thing, right? To bring the nation together, to bring the Earth together. Right. I mean, pictures of, any time in history where that happens. Let's say 9/11, right?
Sure.
After 9/11, this tragedy, the nation is united against a war on terror, right and left. It overwhelmingly passed through Congress that we needed to go to war for this, right? Whether you're Democrat or Republican, everyone agreed. So through history, war has always been a unifier. So we scapegoat, or we turn the scary other thing into the thing we're all in this together to get, whether that's the Jews in our society or, whatever through history, through fascism, through government, military uniting against this perceived threat or this scapegoat threat. And in this case, it's the aliens, which do you feel as though, I think I was always expecting that I would start feeling bad for the aliens at some point, and I don't really. Did you ever?
I don't think you don't entirely feel. I don't think they're trying to make you feel bad for the aliens necessarily, but there are moments where there is these small things where it's this tiny bit of humanity. I think the important thing about this movie is that it's hard to define as anti-fascist necessarily, because it's satire for sure, but to call it anti-fascist I feel is too much, because it's not like I would call Unforgiven, and that's another reason we watch this, is because Unforgiven is a movie that you go into thinking it's going to be about one thing and then it's about another thing. Unforgiven I would call an anti-violence movie. There's violence in it, but it's certainly it's saying very clearly throughout the movie, this is wrong. When they shoot the kid in the canyon, and he's screaming they shot me, I'm dying, I'm bleeding, boys. And it's, that sounded funny because I'm hilarious, but it's really gut-wrenching in the movie. In Starship Troopers, they present everything like that like it's a good thing, except for a couple small moments. And one of them is when they meet up with their new squad and now Rico's in command, the final mission, they're going to try to find this brain bug, because they figured out that there must be some bug that is directing them, that is figuring out how to coordinate.
The Nazi scientists in the movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris and the rest of the SS.
Neil Patrick Harris, that's so wild.
It's so great. The best pre-How I Met Your Mother appearance by him, by far. They figured out that there's this bug that is smarter, that is directing these attacks and everything. And they're trying to hunt that down. And in the process, they have to fight through a few different groups of bugs. And they fight one, and then there's one bug that's not quite dead yet. And it just has this scream that almost sounds human. And it kind of zooms in on its eye a little bit. And its eye looks like weirdly like a human eye. Like it has this kind of it looks terrified. And then like you think for a moment maybe they'll be like, when you look at it up close, it almost looks afraid, but then they just blast it away. And this green goo just goes flying everywhere, and it's like, a dead bug is a good bug, am I right, boys? And it just kind of continues to do that. Like, the entire time, every moment that it sets... Like, I think it very intentionally sets up these moments of something that could happen that they would be like, maybe this is wrong. And instead of doing that, they very intentionally go the other direction, and they go the other direction hard.
So rewinding a sec to something else you said, I guess going off of this, I found a quote by Verhoeven about making a right-wing fascist like commentary.
Yeah.
And to your point that you're making here, like it's not throughout the movie, it's not blatantly an anti whatever fascist movie. It's not blatantly an anti movie, whatever.
Yeah.
And he says in the quote, "If I tell the world that a right-wing fascist way of doing things doesn't work, no one will listen to me. So I'm going to make a perfect fascist world. Everyone is beautiful. Everything is shiny. Everything has big guns and fancy ships, and it's only good for killing bugs."
Yep. That's great.
So I think that's the funny thing is the whole time he's not creating this world where you're like, this is so stupid. Like everything's working. Like the fascism is working great, just as it's supposed to. And in the end, the only reason they're out there losing thousands of people is for killing bugs. Because it keeps the government in control. It keeps people behind a common cause so that they can stay in control. While thousands of people die, the earth maybe gets blasted by these bugs. Whatever. It's all just to kill bugs, which feels
and it's like
very small and meaningless.
Yeah. Like it doesn't stop. That's what I was going to talk earlier about. Like there's a lot of like generational things in this movie where when the kids who are like, been idealized into this world where the military is the only way, they're super excited to join up for their various reasons, and all of the adults in this universe are horribly scarred and broken.
You're right.
Like you see their teacher played by Michael Ironside, and he has one arm. And you're like, how did that happen? Military service, apparently. And then their other teacher, their science teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Their science teacher played by,
played
by what's her name from The Golden Girls, which is crazy.
I don't remember her name.
She's been she's blind, and she's been horrifically scarred with fire or acid or something. The recruiting officer, Rico tells him, I signed up for the mobile infantry. And he goes, infantry made me who I am today, while he's shaking his hand with his robot appendage because his hand isn't there. And then he rolls away to the other computer, and you see that he's lost both of his legs. And I think notably, the adults that have no issues are Rico's parents, who are against joining the military, who presumably did not have any military service. These are the people who have not been blown to bits. Those, and then the people like Clancy Brown, who is who plays their drill instructor at Basic, presumably who has never really had a lot of mobile infantry time necessarily. So he's doing okay. And then you get that aspect of, they were in this same romanticized world, and now this is the new generation coming up into this. There's a lot of people getting replaced in this movie. So after that first invasion, it's a huge fiasco, and there's this newscast that you get to see where the previous air marshal is like, we screwed up. Oh no, I'm resigning, and this person is taking my place. And he backs up, and a woman who is, dressed exactly like him, acts exactly like him, steps up and just is the new person. And it's so clearly just like a political move, that it's like, I'm going to move out of the way, and someone with the exact same agenda and plan is going to step into this spot and continue our previous plans. And meanwhile, everybody's going, good thing we're not going to continue on the course that we were on before, because that would be a mistake. And
well, everyone,
then at the end of the movie, are you still there? You're frozen from me.
Cinema Lounge. Marshall is taking a bathroom break. That's what we'll say. He'll be back in a minute.
Hello, Ben.
Hello. Oh, no. Well, I'm sitting here in the Cinema Lounge. Jazz is happening. As you can tell by your ear holes, I'm gonna... here's the thought. I think the Cinema Lounge needs to upgrade their popcorn. One time, I went to an Alamo Drafthouse for a movie, and I think it's interesting. I had never really been to a place that did popcorn different than the way I had experienced here in Lincoln with Douglas and Marcus, where they way overcharge you. And if you get the extra large popcorn, then you can get a refill. At the Alamo Drafthouse, it was unlimited refills, and they bring out fun spices and seasonings for you, so you can get different flavors of popcorn, which I felt was fun. Also, it came out in a metal bowl instead of like a stupid, just throw away, gross, icky thing that absorbs all the oil. So yeah, I think going to an Alamo Drafthouse, if you haven't done it, go experience an Alamo Drafthouse. That's what I say. I think it's a fun environment. I think Lincoln needs one like that if you're a Lincolnite. Yeah, everybody go to Alamo Drafthouse. They've got good food. It's more extensive than anything around here food-wise. I think the prices are about the same. The popcorn feels like a better deal. However, the issue is that they have all those waiters running around throughout the movie. So I think some people, if you're easily distracted, might find that distracting. But you also might like the service, depending on your outlook. Maybe one of these days, Marshall will get back in the call with me. Hello? Oh. We're going to have to cut all of this dead space. Marshall's texting me right now. He said his Discord blew up. This is strange. Marshall is praising me on the quality content I'm delivering you guys. I guess I can keep talking. Marshall might have to go in. Oh, what an editing job. I should write down the timestamp on this so he doesn't get confused later. What else is there to talk about the movie-going experience or Starship Troopers? If only Mitch was here to talk about it. Maybe we can have him back on as a special guest appearance. Oh, Marshall, you're back.
I guess
Hello.
We're back.
Have you been recording this whole time?
Yeah, I didn't stop recording.
Oh, perfect. Me either.
Cool.
What were we talking about?
The generational aspects of it. So what I was trying to my final thought there, and I don't know how much of what I was talking about you missed because I wasn't sure if you were still hearing me or not.
I don't know. That's
but
fine.
The final thing I was going to talk about is that then eventually their current generation becomes the new leaders of all of this stuff, because in that final battle then all of the guys who were in charge die and they end up taking their place. And in the final propaganda video that ends the movie, you see that like all three of them, the main characters, are now like the higher ups, and they're leading the youngest generation. Like there's like the previous them. It's like at that final battle when they pull the brain bug out, when they're looking out on all of the troops, it's all of these fresh-faced young people, these nameless fresh privates, and it's just like the cycle repeating itself. It's this cycle of hate that these people don't even know why they hate these bugs anymore. It's just the way of life. Like, it's been so long since anyone knew the reason that they were doing any of this. that it's just become the thing that you do, and if you don't, then what's wrong with you?
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
That was the end of my thought.
You're cutting out on my end, but I believe that the audio will come through just fine.
Cool. That's good.
Should we talk about the... I have two things that I'd like to talk about. First off,
yes.
What do you think of the special effects? They had a $100 million budget for this movie.
Really good. For 1997, I've written here, I watched the 4K remaster. On my massive 4K TV and everything. Wait, that's not a brag. I'm just trying to make the point that like this movie from usually when you watch a really old movie in 4K on a huge 4K TV, the effects kind of stick out. Yeah. It looked really good. Like 90% of it holds up, and I'm kind of blown away by that.
I'd say 90%. That's a good number. I'd say like all of the bugs look great. There was definitely some things where it looked like computer generated animation from the 90s, like just kind of weird rendering on some stuff, which was kind of honestly like nostalgic and fun, and like makes it more fun satire wise, like to view it as satire with that. I think it's fun. Like it feels like they put a lot into it in a good way, but then other times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like watching old Star Trek or old, like, I don't know, something like that.
Well, and fun. Then it also comes just kind of at the end of the era of like miniatures and matte paintings and stuff, and right at the beginning of CGI. Like I think Terminator 2 came out around this same era, and that's kind of like often thought of as like the beginning of like film quality CG, because the Liquid Metal Man was incredible and mind-blowing. Seeing him walk through the prison bars and then his gun gets stuck, like that is incredible to see as an audience member, especially for the first time in that time, because there's nothing like that and you couldn't have done that before. But there are a lot of miniatures in this movie. All of the spaceships, more or less, are miniatures, and they look incredible. The designs in this movie, the set design, the world building with all of the design work is incredible. It all looks really, really cool, but then on the interior, it all looks very standard and militaristic, which I love because it's just like very bare bones and exactly like this is what we need and that's all, and there's not going to be any flair to it. I think that's great. You mentioned Star Trek. There's an interesting parallel, and people are going to say that I stole this whole anecdote from Red Letter Media, and yes, they talked about it on their thing where they talked about Starship Troopers, but I independently thought about this too, because I also like Star Trek. Mike is not the only guy who's allowed to like Star Trek, and just because they're a notable movie critic group doesn't mean that I can't say the thing that he said. So now I'm going to.
Do it.
This franchise, and now I'm quoting Mike, is like anti-Star Trek. It's the opposite of Star Trek.
And
that's fascinating.
Star Trek's all about like unifying and like diversity and like reaching out for like exploration to new worlds and like accepting the things that they find rather than like victimizing or like turning those things they find into the enemy. Is that what you're saying?
Because they are also a galactic federation. That's what they're called. But then they literally have the prime directive, which is more or less do not interfere with other worlds and cultures.
Right.
Like that is their whole thing, which could not be more opposite to this movie and this movie's Galactic Federation. But I very specifically want to hone in on you frozen again. Are we going to die? Okay, you're back. I was so nervous. There is an episode of Star Trek that if you've seen any episode, you probably have seen this one, and that is the episode Arena, starring, all of the main characters. And this is the one where Captain Kirk fights the Lizard Man. The Gorn is what he is called. So what happens in this movie is basically Starship Troopers, because the Enterprise, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but the Enterprise shows up because they are on their 5-year mission to explore new worlds, discover new worlds, new civilizations, and all whatever the whole spiel is. And they're enjoying their 5-year journey, their 5-year mission. And they encounter this other culture. And they're kind of fighting between the two of them. It's this battle between these two ships, and they don't speak the same language. It's this lizard race, the Gorn. And somehow, for some reason, this higher being intervenes and says, well, if you guys can't figure out your differences, you're going to fight to the death on this planet, and whoever wins, the other crew gets destroyed. And that's what we're going to do. So that's how you get Kirk and the lizard man, the Gorn captain, on the planet fighting, and you get that iconic, really slow, cheesy fight. Uh-huh. But what they realize is kind of what they don't realize in this movie, in Starship Troopers, is that this is an intelligent creature, that this is an entirely a different race that has, its own culture and its own thoughts and its own beliefs and like all of these things. And Kirk, says, I'm not going to fight him. Like, this is not what we do. And I don't remember how they get out of that situation ultimately, but they do. And it's not Starship Troopers. Like, that's the opposite of what happens in this movie. The end of this movie is they capture the brain bug. Specifically, Clancy Brown captures the brain bug. He's so dedicated to this mission of hate that he ranks himself down from sergeant to private in order that he can fight in the military again. And he captures the brain bug with all the fresh-faced recruits, and Neil Patrick Harris, who is telepathic, they don't really touch on that much, but that's a thing in this universe. People can be telepathic. He goes and, touches the brain bug. And it's this kind of like haunting and terrifying line where it's one of those moments where it's like they're setting it up for them to be like, maybe we are wrong, and then they just go intensely in the other direction, where he holds his hand against it, uses his telepathy, and just goes, it's afraid. And then he turns to everyone and he goes, it's afraid! And he's met with this raucous, applause. Like, everyone's like, yes! Yeah. We did it! It better be afraid, because we'll frick them all up!
Yeah, and then they torture and experiment the crap out of it.
Yeah, and then, you get to see that they are now, just destroying this thing. And it's, it is an aggressor. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the interesting things about the movie is that the arachnids are certainly not good inherently. And I think that's another thing that it's trying to say, maybe, that, everything is gray. But whoever invaded first, whatever that looks like, these main characters are not good guys. They're not good guys at all. They're doing these terrible things. Neil Patrick Harris talks about how, he knew that they were going to lose hundreds of people in that first battle, but it was a calculated risk, and now they knew what they were going to do next after that. Mm-hmm. All of these, super cold things. And it just, it's the total opposite of this Star Trek thing, mm-hmm. this whole episode of Star Trek and all that.
Interesting.
Because Star Trek also has this utopian world. It also has this world where everything works. They've eliminated disease, they've eliminated poverty, they've eliminated hunger. All of these problems are solved, and now what is there to do but explore and meet new friends? It's the exact opposite, where, Verhoeven says, they've done all of this, and then what have they done with their splendor? But go and, stamp down others. They're not sharing what they have. They're saying, we're superior to you, and we are going to further ourselves at the detriment of your society.
Huh. Crazy. That's deep. Was there any kind of branching off of this.
Yeah,
that's some deep stuff. That's heavy. I'd say maybe let's wrap it up maybe with this thought or two or so.
Yeah.
What do you, without getting too political or too many hot takes on current stuff, as you watched this, was there anything you thought of like, oh yeah, this still applies to our society, or it made me think of analogies?
I don't know if this movie made me think of, where we are today necessarily, as much as it made me think of like the Gulf War. Like you brought up 9/11 earlier, and obviously 9/11 is a horrific tragedy, and no one is arguing against that. But then you can see in the response, in the way that we responded, the way that like they dehumanize the arachnids by, they call them bugs, which is a name that we've assigned them. They're intentionally dehumanizing them to make them easier to kill, to make them nothing to us, to make us superior to them.
Or the clip where the propaganda video is all the kids stomping on cockroaches.
I'm doing my part. All of that stuff. Like this country, the United States, we definitely did that same thing to Arabic people, to people in the Middle East throughout the conflicts in the Gulf Wars. And I mean, we're still like seeing the effects of that with the kind of like xenophobia that has bred, where someone with a turban on is how much more likely to get randomly checked at an airport than me.
Right.
So I mean, I would definitely draw that comparison there for 100%. Today. I don't know if I have a specific example necessarily. There's certainly, racism alive and well today, but when I was watching, I was doing my Oscars marathon, and I'll talk about that when we're done talking about the movie. But like watching Trial of the Chicago 7 now, oh my gosh, I was so mad at the world.
Right.
What about you?
I think like for sure, like I think questioning the types of propaganda we see, or like questioning like the way that our children are generationally taught into things, I think is definitely still the same. I think like generation after generation, I think there's definitely a fine line between like nationalism that is healthy and nationalism that is unhealthy.
Absolutely.
And I think like, we still have kids stand up, and when you really start thinking about it, or when you watch a movie like this and then you listen to a class of students like saying the Pledge of Allegiance, like for sure there's times where you're like,
the Pledge of Allegiance has always kind of made me feel gross. Like it's weird to me, but I also have like no sense of nationalism or patriotism at all. So there's that for me, I guess.
Pledging your allegiance to something bigger, and like, do I support all of these things? What am I pledging my allegiance to? All of those things. I think that's still the same generationally. Like growing up watching World War II movies, thinking it was the coolest thing ever, and like not questioning. I mean, maybe World War II is a bad example because there's clearly such a big bad guy in that. But I mean, watching
let's say
movie,
Vietnam.
For sure.
Because it's a hard line to draw with and this is a rabbit hole, but like it's a weird thing where like there is an obvious moral conflict happening in World War II, but there's certainly gray area, and we certainly did bad things that ideally we wouldn't have to have dropped a nuke on two cities and completely obliterated them.
Men, women, children. Yep.
Like that's terrible.
Yeah.
And we, as a United States, the United States of America, unleashed the nuclear menace upon the world, and it ended this war that was much more like a moral dilemma than anything that's come after it. But even like everyone on the Manhattan Project has said like, I don't know what to do the feelings that I have created this. You know, like Einstein, I think left the project before it actually came to fruition for that reason. I can't remember. I might be making that up.
Or like how many Nazi scientists were
immediately brought over. We're like,
or the
you're
space race,
all terrible and did all these terrible things, but if you teach us how to do things, we won't give you consequences and it'll be fine.
Right. I'd say like finally, I think like a piece of fascism or populism is scapegoating people in society or in other things. I mean, you touched on that, but I think today in our society, who are the people we scapegoat? Who are the people that we marginalize or are scared of?
Gamers.
Gamers. It's always gamers.
Gamers, man.
They're so scary.
Drinking their freaking Mountain Dew.
They did all of this. And so I think when people come to power and they point fingers at a certain part of our society or other countries, I think that's always a scary thing. So, or something that I don't want to be a part of. So,
for sure.
I'd say all of those are things I thought of during this movie, except instead of saying immigrants from Central America, it was bugs from whatever. So, yeah.
Wow.
Should we get into like final review then, and then talk about what we're watching?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any other extra things. Do I have any special notes here? No, I mean that's pretty much it.
Sick.
Ben?
Yeah.
Starship Troopers, yes or no?
I say yes to myself. To the general listener, I say not unless you've found this conversation interesting.
Wow.
I'd say no. I'd say no to the. You're not gonna. People aren't. The average U.S. citizen will not. If they were scrolling through Netflix and this popped up as an option and they clicked on it, they would not enjoy it. I don't think.
I don't know about that. I think everyone. I would say yes and yes because I think I would love to know everyone's reaction. Like everyone I know, I would like to know their reaction to this movie. I think that it would be fascinating to have a conversation about this movie with anyone out there and like what they think about it. I think would really inform a lot about where they come from and where like who they are. Not that, you know, their thoughts on Starship Troopers is going to tell me exactly what I think about them, but I think this is a movie that would be very polarizing, and I think it's fascinating, and I think that everyone should watch it once. And if you think it's a stupid bug movie, then that's fine. That's okay. I think it still works as a stupid bug movie.
I think
like
so
you
too.
can ignore all the satire, and this is a pretty good action bug movie.
If I'm being honest, the gore is pretty fun.
It's really good. I didn't realize it was this violent. It's very violent.
It's really not a family movie.
What do you mean?
You shouldn't really. Well, there's some scenes.
They might be making some families. Ooh.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully
she died.
Not. Oh, that's true.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I'd say this movie. No, but I liked it, and I know my friends would like it. I think I watched this movie, and I said, "Dang it, I want to watch this movie with at least 5 other friends." This would be This would be a fun thing to watch on like a boring Saturday night with some friends.
Yeah, and then just like discuss, like, what did you think of this regular movie?
Yeah,
and they'd be like, It's like when you trick them into watching a movie. Like I have a distinct memory of one time. You know how they make like clear Kool-Aid? There was one time that I did this really cool prank where I made the clear Kool-Aid, and my dad needed like a glass of water, and I gave him the clear Kool-Aid, and he drank the clear Kool-Aid, and it wasn't water, it was a delicious Kool-Aid drink. Got him. And I tricked him into having a good time. What an idiot.
Oh, what a dummy. I
pranked my dad.
Got him.
I think about that every once in a while. I'm like, what did I think I was getting out of that? What a wholesome, stupid prank. You drank a tasty drink, stupid. Now get me water, son. Smack.
Corporal
but yeah. So if you like this movie, a movie that you might enjoy, I would say check out RoboCop. RoboCop is another Paul Verhoeven action satire. It's very good. It also has a lot of miniature work in it, and it works really, really well. Total Recall is the same kind of like if you're not looking for like commentary as much as you are just the kind of crazy action stuff, Total Recall is another Verhoeven flick that will give that to you. And maybe read the book. If you're really interested in the satirical elements, I would say check out the book because it definitely delves into that further. If you're wondering if you should watch any of the sequels, of which there's like 4.
Oh, really?
Yep. Skip them. They're bad.
Respect.
Yeah.
If you want a more, I'm trying to think of just satire movies. Maybe that would be like fun if you're just in the mood for satire. I'm trying to think.
Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Another weird one would be Team America: World Police. If you're in for like a weird time.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call Team America satire.
Wait,
necessarily.
Really?
I think that to me, it's very straight laced. Obviously, what it is, like it's.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess it's not like smart. I mean, it's not.
It's not subtle at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
Nothing is happening in the background. It is all very much America.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That whole thing is the mantra of the movie.
That's true.
But it's it's an adventure. Check it out. It's wild.
Also, maybe like similar themes in the end.
Yeah,
maybe.
More or less.
Any other satires that are worth it? There was times where I was almost reminded of Airplane, but I'm not sure why, because Airplane is way funnier than this. But
Airplane is very clearly like a comedy.
Yeah, I got I don't know why I got similar vibes.
I think just some of the more like overacting elements probably, because I can definitely see that.
Yeah, maybe the acting side of things, yeah.
Or like Hot Shots more so, just because that's like specifically the military kind of thing.
Right.
Hot Shots is a great movie. They don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, Ben, let me tell you about my experience trying to marathon all 15 and a half hours of Oscar movies.
Tell me about that.
So I didn't do it. I was going to. Basically, I realized on Friday night that the Oscars were on Sunday, which was yesterday.
Right, yeah.
And I hadn't watched any of the movies nominated for Best Picture because I didn't know it was coming up so soon. So my plan was to spend every waking moment watching these movies, so I would be able to make a prediction before the big show, before the big game, and then I would be able to insert that here, and we'd be able to talk about it. The problem I ran into is that I had actually plenty of time. I thought I was getting my second shot this Saturday, but it was actually this coming Saturday. So I had like an extra however long that would have taken. But I watched the Trial at Chicago 7 Friday night after I came home from work, so that was a late night. But my gosh, what have you watched it?
Not yet. Nope.
Dude, you need to watch it. You would love it. It is incredibly engaging. It's written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. I think it's Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut. This is the guy who wrote and created The West Wing. So this guy has created an entire career out of political drama, and he is incredible at it. This movie, I think, is his best work by far. The cast is incredible. The writing is incredible. The music is fantastic. All the performances are fantastic. And knowing that it is a true story, and the fact that so much of this takes place in the courtroom, which means that so much of it you would think has to be taken directly from the stenographer, it makes it so much more wild knowing that these are presumably, knowing Aaron Sorkin, the actual words that these people were saying in the courtroom. It's insane what transpired. It's nuts. Incredible movie. Definitely watch it. I then watched... what was it? The Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal. I've heard good things. That was like my one that I wanted to watch like soon.
Very good. The whole premise of that one is basically this guy is a heavy metal drummer. Him and his girlfriend are a heavy metal band, and they go and tour around, and he loses his hearing. And he basically has to go to this community for deaf people and learn how to be deaf. And it's really, really, really good. Like a community represented very, very well that you probably would never have seen otherwise. And it's a fascinating look into that world.
Cool.
That hearing people would probably never have gotten a chance to understand in such a way otherwise. So that was very good. And then Promising Young Woman. It was good. I don't love it as much as other people do, but it's very good. The trailer and like the cover art, everything on the outside, it makes it look like this gaudy, overindulgent rape revenge movie, but it's way smarter than that. Like it's really, really smart, and it works really well.
Heck yeah.
It's good. I like it a lot. I feel like the ending is... I think that I'm not going to talk about the ending necessarily, but I think that the ending tied things up maybe too well, and I don't know if it dilutes the overall message necessarily, but I don't know. I'll talk about that more once if you see it, because I don't want to spoil the end for you. What else did I watch? I watched...
You watched The Father?
I didn't. So this is the thing.
Oh.
This is what happened, is I watched all of the ones that were available streaming or were cheaper to rent.
I almost went and saw that one in theaters.
And then the problem, the ones that I really wanted to watch, Nomadland, Minari, Judas and the Black Messiah, The Father, they were all $20 to rent on Amazon.
Oof, that's when you pirate them.
Frick. Well, I couldn't find a good pirated version of any of these because they're all like film festival movies.
Right.
So I was like, crap, I'm not going to watch someone's videotape recording.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to those ones. So I didn't end up watching all of this stuff before the Oscars. I was trying to avoid it, and then it popped up on my screen. So Nomadland won Best Picture. I was going to predict that The Father was going to win. Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor over Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and a lot of people are upset about that. And I feel like it's just because it's Marvel fans who only watched that movie because Chadwick was in it. And, I respect them being upset about that. His performance in that movie is incredible. He's fantastic in that movie. But everything I've heard about The Father is that it is Anthony Hopkins' greatest performance of his entire career. And this is a man who has turned in, perfection after perfection. Like, he is one of the greatest living actors. So that is a huge statement.
And then he didn't show up to accept it.
Did he not?
No, he didn't.
Was there any reason? Was he like protesting anything, or is he just a really old man?
I think he's just 82 and old.
Yeah. It wasn't an in-person ceremony, was it?
Oh, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, I guess. I don't actually know.
I'd be surprised if it was.
But
I mean, the Grammys, not the Grammys, the Emmys weren't, or the Golden Globes weren't, were they?
Wasn't it? I thought it was in person. Didn't they have
I
red
thought
carpet
that they
and everything?
were... I thought it was all, like they had a digital red carpet. There was all these memes of all these celebrities in their apartments all done up. Just looking stupid.
From Master Red Carpet, the COVID rules. Stars prepare for in-person ceremony.
Interesting.
It must have been in person.
Huh. Well,
unlike the recent ceremonies like the Golden Globes, BAFTAs, and Emmys, Oscars have nominees attend in one of the locations in person. Huh.
Gotcha. Yep. That explains that. But yeah, he also lives in Scotland, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is he Welsh? I think he's Welsh. I'm probably going to eat crow for saying anything about that.
I don't know.
But yeah, by all accounts, there's a lot of great movies this year. Congrats to Nomadland and Frances McDormand and her performance in that. I really want to see it. Supposedly it's on Hulu, so I need to log into Ethan's Hulu and actually watch it. But yeah, that's the Oscars. And Ben, that is our show.
Wow, another week down.
Another week down. We have talked about doing a Godzilla marathon next week. Do you want to do that? Because I really don't know if I'm going to have time for that.
I don't really want to do that, if I'm being honest.
Do you want to talk about the trial of the Chicago 7?
Oh, I could do that. I'd be down for that.
Did you just make a suggestion that I didn't hear?
Oh, I said we could do Godzilla in the summer. That's kind of a summer movie fest kind of thing.
Yeah. Here's a couple options. Yeah. My friend Zach, who I worked with at Target, he's a great guy and listens to the show sometimes. He suggested that in the spirit of our books adapted to movies episode, that we do a video games adapted to movies episode.
I've seen far less of those, but we could do that still.
Yeah. What if next week we do Trial of the Chicago 7, and in the background we are checking out a few different video game movies, and that sounds month, reasonable. Which is 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
We do that.
That sounds reasonable.
Great. Cool. I'll send you a list of the ones to check out, and then we can talk about them. I'm going to try to watch the worst ones possible. I'm going to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia.
I forgot about Prince of Persia. Oh my gosh, Jake Gyllenhaal in the desert looking hot.
What could go wrong?
Oh, everything. Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed. I've not seen Assassin's Creed.
I haven't seen Assassin's Creed.
I just started watching Mortal Kombat earlier today, the new one.
Detective Pikachu has to count.
Detective Pikachu, we will count. What else is there? Sonic the Hedgehog.
I haven't seen that yet. I heard good things.
It's surprisly fun, not going to lie. But yeah, we'll get into it. If you have a favorite if you have a video game movie, a movie that's a video game movie that we should watch, send it to us. You can message the show at Cinema Lounge Pod on Instagram. I haven't made an email yet, but you can message the Instagram there. Cinema Lounge Pod is the name, and I'm at mparish. It is 12:38. I am at mparish_art on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. We're still planning to stream eventually, but I am still allowing Ben to get married before we do that.
Thanks, dude.
Yes. And I am, emphasis on I am allowing you to get married.
Yeah, that's very kind. Very kind.
But yeah, those are the places you can contact the show. Please tell us your favorite movie to watch that has been a video game thing.
This is great. Good wrap up. This is great.
Yeah. And tell us what you think about Starship Troopers, about Super Troopers starring George
Troopers.
Lopez.
I love Super Troopers.
I haven't seen it.
It's so stupid.
I've seen clips and it looks the perfect kind of funny, stupid garbage. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening to the show. Ben, do you have anything to say?
No, go to bed.
Shut up. I have to edit this show. You're going to bed.
I'm going to bed.
I have to do like another hour's work.
This is like where you thrive though, so.
I don't know about that, big boy.
Don't
I just want to be playing games on my PS5.
PSP.
Well, like PSPP.
Hey.
Got him. Okay. It's late. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for hopping into the lounge with us.
Yeah.
Jerry never brought us our food.
Oh, frick, Jerry.
What the hell?
I'm hitting that guy up.
What a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak to the manager about that.
Yeah. I am the manager. Okay, let's go. I'm Marshall.
All right, everybody. I've been Marshall.
And I've been Ben.